Need some fast, cheap, reliable MUT coins? Go to MMOXP.com and use discount code MONEYSHOT for 5% off your order. Link in the description below. Welcome back, YouTubers and Madden fans. This is MADDENMONEYSHOT, snipping out the Madden cheese as always. Got another video for you today about X Factors. I know a lot of people probably picked this game up around Christmas time. Maybe you got it for Christmas, maybe you got it Black Friday. And ultimately, the biggest addition to the game this year is X Factors. So I thought that this is a perfect opportunity to go over what I think are the glitchiest, cheesiest, most overpowered X Factors and abilities that you can either add to your MUT team or maybe even go as far as to pick a team in regs just to make sure that you secure these type of players with these type of X Factors, because some of these are truly broken and overpowered, as you're going to see throughout the course of this video. Now, if you don't see your favorite X Factor in here, please let us all know. Please share with us in the comment section. If you want to see more videos like this, do me a favor, hit the like button, and I'll continue to do them. Other than that, let's go and let's start the video off on the offensive side, and we'll take a look at some of the X Factors for QBs. Now, to me, the most overpowered X Factor for quarterbacks is Peyton Manning's Omaha. Omaha essentially allows you to see the defensive coverage of all the defensive backs on the field. And considering how some of the best defenses in the games are the 1-4-6 and defenses with a lot of defensive backs, this is going to be a huge advantage. To me, this is probably one of the best ones in the entire game, knowing exactly what your opponent's defense is. You're seeing this as if you're seeing it through your opponent's eyes as they're playing defense. And they may never be the wiser. So ultimately, you see everything your opponent's doing, whether they change the formation, they change their defensive coverage, whether they make individual adjustments, as long as it's done by the defensive back. So if they come out in a cover 2 and then change it to a cover 3, you're going to see that. If they come out in hard flats and change it to cloud flats, or decide to man assignment somebody to a specific receiver, you're going to see every single thing as if you were in the defensive huddle. So ultimately, this is to me one of the most broken ones in the entire game. If you do the NFL 100, you get it from the start of the game. You get it for 5 plays to start every game, which should be enough to score since you can see the defense. So you should be getting a touchdown off the bat pretty much every time you have this ability. So if you're not very good at playing quarterback, you can't read a defense really well, that's a really good X Factor to use. Now, there's also some really good abilities that'll help you out as well. Gambler is probably one of the better ones. You can't throw interceptions to AI defenders if you use Gambler, which I think is going to help a lot of people out. Pro reads, if you can't, you have trouble deciding who's open, Pro reads is going to show you the first receiver that gets open is going to pop up his icon to let you know to throw there. If you have a hard time picking up the blitz or you don't know who's coming in, Blitz Radar is going to help you out a lot. So these are really good abilities to add to make that easier for you if you're not very good at playing quarterback or you're not very good in the passing game. Now, my personal favorite is Bazooka. If you're a vertical passing game player like I am, you need that extra throwing yards. So 15 plus extra throwing yards on deep passing attempts, which to me is really important. Now, you also have these chemistries. I think are one of the most important ones, Homer and Indoor Baller. You want to make sure that you have at least one of these, so the requirements to get your X Factor activated is going to be a little bbit easier. Indoor Baller, obviously, if you're in a dome stadium, that will make that easier. And if you have a home game, which is about 50% of the time, you're going to have easier, it's going to be easier to get your X Factor activated. So moving on to wide receivers, I think that one of the most overpowered ones is definitely Moss. You can tell anytime that they have a $9.99 next to the salary cap symbol, basically means that they're making it so that you'll never see this in a competitive mode game because it's just too broken. Also, Streak Specialist, to me, if you have a guy who's sitting on a lot of streaks, Streak Specialist would probably make the most sense. So to have that combination on a guy like Randy Moss is just a devastating combination. You can see right here, if you have the NFL 100 activated, you only get Randy Moss's Mossed for one single play. So basically, on the very first play of every game, you just pretty much just take a shot, and you have a pretty, guaranteed chance to win an aggressive catch.
Hey man, you got Moss.
And you can see the Streak Specialist also really helps to get past the coverage a lot of times. It's one of the better things to have as well. Now, for top-notch abilities, to me, Route Technician is probably one of the best ones. Route Technician just means that pretty much any cut that your receiver makes is going to be exaggerated, helping to get even more separation, which is ultimately the goal. Anytime you're in a passing separation is key. It's going to raise your ability to get catches, whether it's man or zone. You can see right here, this is a cover 3, and he still, just gets great separation. Some other ones, if you like to throw a lot of crossing plays, post routes, in and outs, out corners, slants, whatever, you pretty much have a way to boost just about every single route in the game. So you have to ask yourself, this is a certain level of personalization when it comes to this. What are my favorite routes that I like to run? Do I run a lot of double moves? Do I run a lot of slants? Whatever it is that's pretty much one of your preferred routes, make sure you get the chemistry, make sure you get the ability to maximize that. It's pretty much that simple. Moving on to the running back position, which as a whole is probably the most overpowered thing in Madden this year. Pretty much everybody just runs the ball the entire game. But to me, one of the better is probably Freight Train. What Freight Train is essentially the next tackle attempt on you, you have a much higher chance of breaking that, which you can see right here. I didn't really time the juke properly, but you can see it still worked out. Ultimately, any broken tackle attempt can result in a much larger carry. So that to me is probably one of the better ones. But ultimately, the abilities are really where it's at. Jukebox to me is probably one of the most broken ones here, as well as evasive, which is essentially jukebox with spin moves included. Now jukebox, basically whenever you make a juke, you're going to see, number one, you're covering a huge amount of space. You don't lose any acceleration, and it basically almost looks like you're getting an acceleration boost. That's just how broken this is. This is probably one of my most favorite ones in the entire game, as you can see right here. And when you use a regular running back, it's slow. It doesn't really get the job done, even if you have a good running back. The second you turn on jukebox or evasive, you can see just how much space you cover, how hard you are to tackle, and how fast it is. It almost looks like a speed boost. There's just nothing like it. I mean, you just really, nobody really stands a chance. You can see, to me, like I said, one of the most broken ones in the game. Now, if you use a power back, a lot of people like to do, I think probably one of the better ones that's pretty much the same thing as armbar, which, yeah, I think was toned down quite a bit, but still one of the better ones. So to me, if you got a speed back, I would go with jukebox. If you have a power back, go with armbar. Now, just like the receivers where you can choose your favorite routes, you can also cater to your favorite run plays. To me, I personally am an inside zone type of runner, but once again, this is all about personalization. So if you like to run a lot of traps, counters, things where there's pulling players, pin and pull guru is the way to go. Any type of run play, really, toss plays, you name it, something where there's a lot of pulling and motioning linemen, that's going to be the best way to go. Now, like I said, I personally run a lot of inside zones. You can see the impact block boost that you get from running these inside zones is very noticeable. You can see on these first two plays here that these guys, they just basically get blown off the spot. You also are going to notice the receivers do a much better job of blocking. It's across the board. The entire blocking setup is going to be better. Now here you can see I switch running backs. Look how this guy just gets right through that block and makes the plays, because this particular running back does not have inside zone guru. So you can see the difference. I mean, this is so overpowered. I can run this against a full goal line set. I am outnumbered by at least two blockers. And you can see I just get right through for an easy play. I'm not suggesting to always do that, but you can see how you get a huge advantage. So next up, we got the offensive linemen. Now, the offensive linemen have the added ability that you basically get whatever X factor you use, it's always there. So me personally, I use identifier. Now, identifier, you can see what your opponent's user is pretty much the entire time. Now, if they like to move around before the snap, it's pretty obvious, but there's a lot of people that don't move around pre-snap, and you really don't know what position they're playing. So a guy like this, he plays back on the safety. I see only 3 down linemen, so I'm going to say it's the perfect opportunity to hit him with an inside zone because his user's so far back. So this is definitely a useful ability, whether it's run or pass, that you're going to be facing, because a lot of times it really just helps to know where your opponent is, because typically your opponent's the best defender. That's probably one of the top X factors in the entire game. To me, one of the best abilities is probably Threat Detector. Now, Threat Detector basically will show you who the blitzers are on key 3rd and 4th down. So on this key 3rd down, I can see that he rotates over to an all-out blitz, which, you know, obviously I can just make a quick throw adjustment and I get a 1st down. I know exactly what I'm looking at. So between Threat Detector, Identifier, and if I go back to my quarterback having Omaha as Peyton Manning, I pretty much see everything the defense is doing throughout the entire game. So if you want one of the cheesiest setups in this game to use in Madden 20, I would recommend those 3. You only need to use 2 different players to get all 3 of them, and you're going to see what your opponent's doing throughout the entire game. And then, like I was saying, with the receivers and the running backs, you have a certain level of personalization. If you're more of a passer, Pass Block Elite's a really good one to use. You also have Secure Protector. You have All Day. All these things are pretty much the same thing. If you're a run-heavy player, Power Blocker would be very good. Nasty Streak helps out blocking cornerbacks and linebackers. Run Block Elite is obviously one of the best ones as well. Moving on to defensive players, I know a lot of people have a hard time stopping the run, and I think it's because you're not using these X factors I'm about to show you. Unstoppable Force, to me, is without a doubt one of the best ones in the game when it comes to stopping the run and stopping the pass. To me, I use it personally on Aaron Donald. You can see right here, I want to try to squeeze Lawrence Taylor in there because obviously he'd be a great player. But Unstoppable Force, just basically you're going to get a lot more sheds and you're going to have a lot quicker. If you go with the Unstoppable Force 100, you get it from the very start of the game. You also have the option to use things like shutdown and stuff like that, which are mostly used for cornerbacks. But you're going to see here, Aaron Donald, number 99. You're going to see how consistently this guy gets off of blocks. He gets block sheds is first, pretty much every time. You see right here, look how he just basically controls this play. He goes one way, flips it around, goes the other way. I mean, he basically is going to control the line of scrimmage. He's not the best player on my defensive front, but he's going to have the most effectiveness based off of the fact that he has unstoppable force. You can see right there, he gets off the shed. To me, it really helps out a lot in the run, but it ultimately helps out in the pass as well. You're going to see right here, as I slow this down, all 5 of my guys are getting blocked. The very first one that gets off and creates pressure is Aaron Donald once again. He is always going to get off first. As you can see, all 4 of my other defensive players are still engaged. He forces the play outside. He doesn't get the sack because he's not the fastest guy, and that's pretty much all you need to know about unstoppable force. Now, like I said, you also have the ability to make these guys more coverage-based. Under pressure is probably one of the best abilities, in my opinion. It's a lot like Fearmonger, but it makes the zone that you affect the quarterback a little bit larger. So to me, those are probably the 2 best. You'll create a lot of inaccurate throws by having those as abilities. Moving on to the cornerbacks, once again, this is all about personalization. Man up, if you like to run a lot of man blitzes like I personally like to do, that's probably the best way to go. You also have zone out. Universal coverage is a mix of both. You pretty much have, whether you run man or zone, you're going to have a much better coverage as far as that goes. But you're going to see right here, I mean, the coverage, I have it on both of my outside cornerbacks, on Rod Woodson and Deion Sanders. You're just going to see that the tight coverage that these guys have when you have them in the zone is just insane. It's almost like they're the receivers rather than being the cornerbacks. I mean, they just jump so many passes. They knock balls down. To me, it's a must. And then last but not least, something that's, to me, one of the more impressive ones is selfless. Basically, if you use one of your X factors, one of your 3 X factors on Pat Tillman to have selfless, it'll make sure that your teammates are in the zone. I don't know if it's the entire game because I've never used it. I can't personally give up one of my X factors to have him have it. I haven't tried it yet, but to me, that's definitely a unique one that I think I might, use in the future if it works in the way that you get it the entire game. So that's it. That's the vid. If you guys think I left any off of my list, do me a favor, let me know in the comments section. Let everybody know in the comments section what your personal favorite ones are. And if you want to see more videos like this, do me a favor to like button, and I'll keep doing videos like this. Other than that, thanks for watching Madden Money Shot out. Need more help or just want to show your support? Then head over to my Patreon and join my team, where you can get exclusive content like ebooks and bonus plays, as well as early access to my vids and more. Link in the description below.